Okay, now we're going to talk about installing our new guide. We're going to be using a Slotting Plus guide for this, but what I want to highlight here is a couple of things. First of all, you can tell that this chassis is a little bit lower now than stock because, we've sanded our front tires, reduced the diameter there. We've reduced the diameter on the rear just a little bit. So overall, you can tell that the chassis is a little bit lower. And like I said, lower is better, as long as it's not rubbing, of course, but that's pretty important, as you can see. You can also see there, one of the main reasons why we're changing this guide is that this guide here in stock form, it's just not fully seated in the track. You could do a lot better than that, and that's what we're gonna do. And that the front wheels, tires, they're just bearing too much weight for me. Now, I set my car up in a tripod where the guide basically bears most of the weight, but the front tires are touching. They're rolling, maybe they support a little bit of weight. So that's the way I like to set it up. There's an argument about which is better. Should the front wheels bear most of the weight or should the guide? And I'm not gonna get into that. It is what it is. If you feel that that way about it, then just set your car up that way. Mine out here on the oval for the oval racing, I kind of like, like what I call a tripod, and I'm gonna set it up like that. But the important thing is the guide's gonna be fully seated. We're gonna have much better performance there with that guide. As far as the guides go, I wanted to show you real quick. These are, of course, the Slotting Plus guides. The one on the left is in stock form. You'll notice these little lines there. That kind of gives you like a guide for you to trim. And I just use the side cutters, real quick and easy. This one's been trimmed. It's ready to go in the car. I just kind of angled it there. And you can trim these to suit your track depth, track configuration, if you got tighter corners, things of that nature. And of course, this is the CG Slot Car 332nd adapter that we'll be using. And also you'll notice that the wires are, like I said, I've installed this one. I just use the set screw method to install the wires. But we're gonna get to showing you installing that adapter and a little chassis mod if need be. But I thought it was important to show you this difference in the ride height and the guide depth and why we're doing this change. So we're going to get on to the chassis modification, and then we're going to get this car on the track. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about installing the CG Slot Cars adapter in this chassis. It's really easy to do. These adapters are made for the Scalextric cars. So essentially you just turn it over using your favorite adhesive, glue it in place, and make sure it's aligned. So always test fit though as you go, test things. I always test this before I glue it, make sure everything's okay, and it is. Now the second thing you want to do is take your guide and install it in here, and again, you're going to want to test as you go. But what you're checking for here is just to make sure that the front bulkhead, the front edge right here of this guide isn't making contact with the chassis as it rotates. So you want to check it, make sure that you have clearance. And on this one you do. It's pretty close though. And if it is, it's pretty simple to fix. I use an X-Acto blade, and you can just sit here and just take a little bit of material off at a time. As you can see, just a little bit. I just took some off right there, and just shave that chassis a little bit. And then again, test fit as you go. Make sure that, and you're rotating it, that you have clearance and you don't have any rubbing. So that's just one of the chassis things you might have to do on other cars. Thought I'd highlight it here. Now we're really close. We're going to install our wires. We're going to trim this post, which is easy to do. You can use an X-Acto blade. You can file it down. Using the SEC guide shims, we're going to set our ride height, get our wires ran, and it's just about time to give it a road test.